The Gibraltar Supreme Court has ordered the release of the Iranian oil tanker seized by Britain last month. Now, that's despite an application by the United States to keep the ship in detention. The Chief Justice said that Iran had guaranteed in writing that the tanker was not delivering oil to Syria, which is under EU sanctions. Gibraltar police and the British Navy seized the vessel, the Grace 1, at the beginning of July. It was suspected, of taking Iranian oil to Syria, which would violate EU and U.S. sanctions. Now, Iran denied any wrongdoing, and 2 weeks later, it seized a British-flagged tanker. Let's bring in DW's Teresa Troper, who joins us now from Iran, an island on the Strait of Hormuz. Teresa, tell us, these latest developments that we're hearing now from Gibraltar, what does it mean for the Stena Impero, that British-flagged tanker being held by Tehran?
Well, that's the news Iran has been waiting for the past few days, because in those days preparations have been made for potential exchange. Our source within the Iranian Revolutionary Guards told us that the British tanker has been moved lately from the place it was detained a couple of weeks ago and kept since then to a place closer to the port in Bandar Abbas. And that port is a place we cannot go because we're told that there's an increased number of Sepah military forces there. So now, as soon as the Iranian tanker in Gibraltar is released, the chances are high that the same will happen to the British tanker here in the Strait of Hormuz. But so far, there's no confirmation for that yet from any official.
And we know Iran has repeatedly threatened to block the Strait of Hormuz in the conflict with the United States. Could a blockade happen if the U.S. still tries to seize the Iranian vessel in Gibraltar?
Yeah, Rouhani has threatened that a couple of times already, but so far Iran has never done so. But the detainment of the British ship alone has slowed down trade here in this very important strategic region for international trade a lot. I was out in the Strait of Hormuz today with a boat and I could hardly see any ships. The only oil tanker I saw at all was an Iranian one. So that's obviously, the detainment of this ship alone was enough to scare other traders away. So, and it's important to know that the Strait of Hormuz, here, a quarter of the global oil consumption pass, so it has a tremendous effect on international trade.
And we have some positioning with regard to the Strait of Hormuz internationally. We just want to highlight the European Union's effort. They've actually proposed sending a naval force to protect merchant ships in the Persian Gulf. What's Iran's view?
Well, Iran totally rejects that altogether because Tehran considers the Persian Gulf its own backyard and it feels it is responsible for the safety of shipping there. So Iran is willing to put together its own naval mission with other neighboring countries like Oman, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates or even Saudi Arabia. But so far that was not a success yet. But Iran says any other country sending military ships to the Persian Gulf is a security threat. And that's not only for countries like the US, Great Britain or even Israel that Iran considers enemy countries, but that's also true for European countries. Iran says, and Iranians agree here, that any other country sending ships here is a security threat to Iran.
DW's Teresa Troper in Iran. Thank you. And let's get more now with Scott Lucas, professor of international politics at the University of Birmingham in the UK. Welcome to the program, Scott. What do you make of this decision by the court in Gibraltar to release the Iranian vessel?
Well, I think legally it's a pretty straightforward decision in that the Gibraltar First Minister did not ask for the ship to continue to be held. There is an assurance that it was not going to deliver oil to Syria, which would violate EU sanctions. And the U.S. request through the Justice Department was rebuffed because it has nothing to do with that matter. But politically, that's a huge question. Does the United States now put pressure on the U.K., which said this was a matter for the Gibraltar courts, to try to some way reverse this or modify this and still hold the ship? Does the U.K. resist that? Do the Americans go even further, which risk not only a split with the U.K., but with the European Union?
And we know the United States, they want to seize the Iranian tanker themselves. Are those efforts now dead?
Oh, nothing's dead under the Trump administration when it's trying to reduce all Iranian oil exports to zero, which is why they very much wanted to keep holding on to this ship. But I think the question is whether they keep pushing this particular matter, given that the British are looking for the release of their UK flag tanker possibly later today, or whether the Americans say, okay, we lost on this one, but now we'll try to find out other ways to try to cut off Iranian shipping.
Scott, where does all of this leave Britain? Because, I mean, it appears as if the United States is trying to sink any behind-the-scenes efforts made by British diplomats to end the tanker dispute and really go its own way.
It gives Britain a huge choice, and that is either it stands alongside its European partners, it stands alongside the decision of the Gibraltar Court and says, no, we have to proceed with this, we have to proceed then with diplomacy over this matter, or does it, only 48 hours after the U.S. National Security Advisor, the hardliner John Bolton, was in London, do they surrender almost or give way to the United States, which will distance themselves from the Europeans, which may force a showdown with the Iranians? I think the new Johnson government, which has only been in office in a month, has a big choice, and which way it goes will say a lot about the new prime minister and whether he's willing to basically give up Europe to side with Washington.
Scott Lucas, thank you.
Thank you.